let's get started. I want to talk a little bit more about the DOM. We've talked about a few things about the DOM, what it is, why we care about it, what it means that it's a tree, how to create a new DOM element. We even got in a little bit to how to find and update DOM elements. But I want to zoom in a little bit closer on those questions, because now we have more time. And I still want to do that exercise. So before that, I want to talk about why we can't get access to the DOM from a script tag in the head. So I want to have to move my script tag into the head. I want to talk about what debugger is and why it's cool. I want to talk about how you can find an existing DOM element, including a DOM element inside of an existing DOM element, how we can change a DOM element, and how we can choose between using inner HTML and inner text, which we used this morning. We'll probably remove some more DOM elements. I want to talk about how we can loop through collections of DOM elements, why we might want to. I want to talk about those 5 ways to find an element, which is the best one, what they return, and answer any questions you may have about them. I want to talk about how we can write selectors, and better yet, how we can find out more about how to write selectors. And then, I have an exercise for you. Questions?
What's the exercise?
Great question. I'm not going to answer that yet, but it's right here at activity.md. Fear not. All right, so I've changed my page a little bit. This HTML document has some more stuff in it. It even has some CSS to it, which is why these list items show up as pretty little blobs with mean emojis in them. This will be our playground for creating, reading, updating, and deleting some DOM nodes. But first, let's talk about, well, I don't know, which one of these should we do first? Create, read, update, or delete? Read. Read? Actually, let's take a vote. Create, read, update, or delete. Raise your hand for a create. Read. Update. Delete. All right. You're the only nihilist. I'm with you, but let's.
No, because there's some problem with this.
Yes?
We must delete one that
Oh.
does not belong.
Which one?
All of them.
Oh, sure. Yeah. All right. We'll circle back to that. Don't let me forget. First, we got to go with the will of the people and create an element. So, as we did this morning, how do we create an element? Raise your hand if you want to walk me through it. Lorena.
Document dot create element.
Let's add an element to this list, maybe. So this is a UL.
It's a list item, but I don't-
Yeah. So if I just pass an LI there, will that work? No. Why not? What is JavaScript going to think this is? As I wrote this code. Yeah.
I think we did
We do. Yeah, I think that'll help. If I run it like this, I'm going to get an error that says li is not defined. If I put quotes around it, no problem. Yeah? But if I don't, I get an error that says li is not defined. Why? What is this error telling me about how JavaScript understood my code? Chloe. Is what a class? Li. How could we find out? Yeah.
type of LI.
Type of li. That's weird. All right. Probably because I passed that into document.createElement. It'd be really nice if I could get like type of li to squirt out on the console. It won't do that on its own. It'll make a really nice error if I pass nothing into createElement. But like just running type of li doesn't actually do anything. I have a tool for this. Yeah. Yes. Console log is our best friend for this kind of things. This kind of thing. It's a function. We can pass anything into it, and a stringy representation of it will show up on the console. Turns out the type of li is undefined, which actually kind of surprises me. But Carla, what do you make of this? That's exactly it. If we don't put quotes around li as we pass it into create element, JavaScript will assume that there is a variable called li that we're trying to access. In this case, not there. So we get an error. We've got to pass in li as a string, or JavaScript will think that it's a variable. Okay, so we've created this element. I'm not actually, Lorena, seeing it on my UL. What do we need to do next? Oh yeah, append it. We did this morning too. What should we append it to? And how do we append it? Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good insight. If we ever want to append something to a piece of the document, we have to first select it off the DOM. If we want to append this li to a UL, we have to first grab it off the DOM, which brings me to the 5 ways of selecting things off the DOM. Okay, here it is. Manipulating the DOM with JavaScript chart. We've got document.getElement by ID, document.getElements by class name, or element.getElements by class name, getElements by tag name, query selector, and query selector all. These are our 5 tools for getting things off of the DOM. And we could use any of them to get the UL off the DOM. For this particular job, not all of these tools will be as easy as the other ones. And we're leading up to a decision about which one of these tools we should use. But there are some things we should consider in making this choice. The return shape. Document.getElement by ID and element.querySelector return one single DOM element. Just one node from the tree that is the DOM. For query selector, it will be the first one that matches the selector you passed in. For getElement by ID, it'll be the single item with that ID, because your IDs should be unique. And if they're not, it'll give you the first one, usually. But don't rely on that. For these two, what is the return type? It's kind of like an array, but it's not quite an array. You're welcome. Thanks, JavaScript. Yeah, HTML collections are kind of cool for a couple of reasons. If I do this, here's an HTML collection with 7 things in it. I'm going to assign that to a variable. Here are my LIs. And then if I were to do something like document.query selector UL, perfectly fine way of getting that UL dot append, document.create element LI. You've got a new LI in that list. How many elements will be in LIS now? Raise your hand if you think you know how many. How many do you think? 8. Cool. Does everyone agree? I'll say it a different way. Who disagrees? And why?
Well, all I have to say is it just doesn't seem like 8 red. It seems like 1, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's all.
Last time we looked at LIs, it had 7 in it. We added 1, so that does add up to 8.
Oh, we did it. Just
Yeah. But
Wait, so are you asking for a constant? Are you asking for a constant element or the one you added to it?
this one right here, LIS is an HTML collection with a bunch of LIs in it. Rachel.
I was gonna ask the same question,
Yeah.
that it was defined as the 7 before, so
Mhm.
I don't think it can change.
Great point. So since we defined it as 7, maybe even partly because we defined it as a constant variable, maybe it won't have changed. Also possible. I think these are probably the two most likely numbers of things, either 8 or 7. Who thinks it's going to be 7? Who thinks it's going to be 8? Ooh, we're split. I love this. Drum roll, please. It's 8. HTML collections are what's called live. They are a dynamic view into the current state of the DOM. So as you work with them, they may change. Cool. Actually, it winds up being kind of a pain to me. Because HTML collections also do not have the ability to have for each called on them. Yeah. Because they're not arrays, and because they're live. Something that happened in the DOM while you're looping through it, and then everything would explode maybe. I don't know. You also can't call for each on document get element by ID or element.query selector. Those only return one element, so if you're for eaching on those, you've confused yourself, which, no shame in that half the time. But none of these have a for each. The only thing that you can for each is the return value for element.querySelector all. What does querySelector all do? We haven't talked about that one at all yet. Anyone use this one so far? Yeah, what'd you use it for?
Select all the alt text, put in div, and select, give you an HTML collection.
Almost. Yes, it will give you a collection of the elements. It will not actually give you an HTML collection. But I think this is a really good point. So if I put in li, I've got my node list with 8 things in it. It's a node list. Unlike before, for each is a thing. Greg.
You don't talk about it. Prototype, but you open up the node list.
Oh, yeah.
You go to Proto.
Yeah.
Let me show you.
Ooh. Yeah, we'll talk about the prototype later. It's sort of like a class in JavaScript, but not really. It's fiddling with this is a great way of figuring out what methods you can call, or you can just type in the name of the method. And unlike in Ruby, this doesn't call the method, it just references it. You'll see it sort of like spits out a function looking thing. That's actually an object that represents the method itself. We'll get into that more tomorrow. If I want to call it, I need to have parentheses. And I have to pass in a function, which is super weird. So I can console log all of those. Another weird thing about the console while we're in here, this console log actually happened 8 times. Chrome collapses those all into one line and just tells you, hey, this happened 8 times. But it was the same console log from the same line of code, so it's just collapsing them all into one. So, query selector all li, we can for each. Document dot get elements by class by tag name li. Same exact code with the for each. What happened? Exactly right. For each is not a function. What is for each in this case? Undefined. You can't for each get elements by tag name. You can loop through it with something like a for loop or a for in, but I kind of prefer to use query selector all, personally. All right. Questions about this? I don't want to dive too much into looping because it's a whole other topic and callbacks and all that. We got time for it later.
Okay. Query selector and query selector all. You can specify that you want to grab like
Correct.
so you don't need to use the top 3.
No, I don't think so. Okay. I think they're good to know about. It's good to know they exist, but my favorites are these two, and probably this one is a third. One more thing about query selector all, though, if we're all ready for it. Here's my query selector all. I go all the way up and append a new UL or new LI or two to this list. Crap, I did this wrong. Let me try again. Here are my LIs. There are 7 of them. All right. Added 2 LIs to the list now. If I go back to LIs, how many items will be in that array? Yeah.
This time it is going to be 7 because it's not 5.
Okay.
So since you can call for each
So you're saying that because last time we said it was live, this time we can for each it. Probably because we can for each query selector all, this node list is still going to have 7. All right. Yeah. Does anyone think it'll be 9? So why? Just a gut feeling. Fair enough. That was correct before. Before, when we added some stuff after we fetched it off the DOM, it was live and it did update. Anyone else have a reason or a dissenting opinion, maybe 8 or 0 or I don't know. Weirder things have happened.
To look at the temperature way to graph. No, yeah.
Oh, this right here. What did you want to see here?
The line.
Yeah. What did you notice in that column? Yeah, it does say no, which would suggest that Rachel's going to be right and that this is going to have only 7 LIs in it. Drum roll, please. It's only 7. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. It's also linked in the README, so don't worry about memorizing it. There's also great documentation on all of these things linked in the table on MDN. Boom, 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 boom. So, plenty of stuff for all of your reading. All right, so this was a long aside for what we were trying to do, which was going to be to just get the UL off of the document. Who has a way that they think is the best for them for getting that UL off the document? And why? Chloe.
I think that element by ID is the best because there's only one UL in this HTML.
That's very much correct. And this UL happens to already have an ID. I would encourage you to be bold about adding IDs and classes to your elements if you need to query select them. Getting things by tag name, it's not going to be a good idea if there's ever more than one UL on this page. Let me tell you, as your project grows, there probably will. And it'll break your code. So, using the ID is a great idea.
What's the process of adding ID? You can't just like when you UL, you just like
Actually,
whenever
sorry.
you need one, you just add one to your HTML.
Yeah, exactly right. As long as you're not reusing the same string for an ID in 2 places, it should be good.
Is there any convention?
Yes. For IDs, less so, but definitely for classes. Look up BEM, B-E-M, block element modifier. It's great. BEM, block element modifier, it's a naming convention for classes. Yeah, we can add IDs to whatever we want. In this case, we've already got one. It's blobs. So what am I going to pass in to get element by ID? Ruined it. It's going to be a string. What should I put in that string if I want to get back? Raise your hand, please. Just helps with crowd control. Yeah. Blob. Just plain blob? When would I need a hashtag in here? Daniela.
Because it's an ID. If it was a class, you just do like a dot block.
Mm.
Because
Mhm.
like it has like a CSS, attribute, it's a-
You're right in concept, but I want to show you something. Here, let me borrow this scrap of code. Hold on, stay with me. I got null in this case. And the weird thing is, even if I go back and I'm sort of like, all right, well, let me get it back as a class instead. Like this should, .blobs is a correct selector for this UL. Do you know why this is happening?
Yeah, because like the method is already doing the ID, so it's already okay to see the ID. If it was like other one, like the element like tag would be the element of the
Exactly right. If we're going to use a selector, it's got to be query selector. That works fine. This works fine, but you got to keep straight which method you're calling. Element by ID takes only the name of the ID, not a selector. Query selector takes a selector, not just an ID. Okay, we've got another problem. I've written 3 lines of JavaScript, which means it's time to test my JavaScript. I'm not even going to append it yet. I want to console log this blob variable. What should this blob variable be based on the code that I've written already?
List, I mean, no, UL class ID.
This thing.
Yeah.
This UL here with the ID of blobs. Terminal, please. What happened?
No.
I'm going to copy and paste the exact same code that I wrote on line 3 into the console. What do you expect this to be?
No.
Raise your hand. Yeah. Not null. Oh, it actually is null. Why?
Blobs.
Oh, all right. We got bigger problems. Let's fix this. Still null. Not null.
Right, they come sort of block. You also see.
Yeah. Rename my variable. Still gotta be null. What TF is going on here? Actually, let's back up a little bit. And besides this being super, super weird, let's try and see what this behavior is telling us. How can we describe the thing that is happening here? Or what it seems like is happening.
No punishment for wrong answers.
Carla.
you're going in the document, you're finding the element that you lost.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And what am I getting for a return value when I do that on index.js line 4? What's weird about this part of what it's doing? Does this seem normal? No.
No.
No. Okay, good. What seems weird about it? Let's describe it. Let's lean into it. Let's get weird. Who can describe what's going on in the console here?
Well, I mean, it would seem that when you load the page,
Mm-hmm.
it runs the JS file,
Mm-hmm.
and we're expecting it to return something.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't return something.
Yeah.
But then when we put the code into the console,
Exactly right. Exactly the same code as in the JavaScript file, running in the console and giving us something completely different. Hold. I think you might be right, but come on this adventure with me. This is a super, super weird issue, and it's actually a very, very common one in JavaScript. Very common one in JavaScript. I want to introduce you to another tool besides console log. Console log gets you so far, but debugger is sometimes better. Debugger is very much like binding cry in Ruby or bybug or one of those tools. Debugger will only work if you've got your console open in Chrome or Firefox or whatever browser you're developing in. Won't do anything if it's closed. So be on the red wedding, keep it open. Debugger will stop time at that moment in your code before anything below it has run, after everything above it has run, unless you're doing something really nested. And you'll have access in your console to any of the variables that you've got lying around. Ready? Let's do it. I'm going to refresh the page so that my JavaScript runs again. And it's running. It's actually stopped on this line of code in my index.js. If I look at my blobs variable, I can still see my null that I got last time. Other stuff is like an uncaught reference error. This is a real variable that is actually there. But blobs is still null. I want you to notice also what's going on the left of the page. At the left? Yeah. What do you see? Yeah, it's like loading icons still going, and what I mean, look at this. This is a little bit different than what we had before, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Yeah, we've got literally nothing here. The emperor has no clothes. Let's look at the elements panel and get some more information about what's going on. What do we see?
Something to do with the order of where the scripts.
What makes you think so?
Because I know that it's there, but I've never seen it before.
What else? What do you notice about this HTML document as it is?
Yeah, there's no body.
Yeah, it's a headless body. It's bodiless head. Just numbered. We've got an HTML element here with a head inside of it and no body. And yes, Carla, you were right. This has to do with where the script tag is. I actually think it's great to put your script tag in the head, but it does cause problems with accessing the DOM. There's a way to get around those problems that we'll talk about tomorrow. But this script runs when the browser encounters the script tag in the HTML, and it stops. This HTML is not rendered yet. The browser doesn't even know it's there, which is why I'm going to move the script tag all the way down to the bottom of the body so that it can actually find the UL that I'm looking for. If I refresh, come on. Blobs is there. My message is not always put the script tag in the body. My message is JavaScript gets loaded in order. And you may have this bug. Another way you can get around it is by adding a defer attribute to the script. Still got blobs. You cool with that?
What is more
Depends. I always put mine in the head, but I think that's more habit. It depends. Sometimes you want the script to run after the HTML is there. Sometimes you want some of it to run before and some of it after, which is also possible with it in the head. But yeah, it depends on what you need to do. Yeah. So it'll now wait until the HTML is loaded because the word defer is there. Otherwise, it won't.
Because some HTML has footer.
Mhm.
Footer if you don't put it in the body.
Footer is actually like an element that will show up on the page. Yeah, so it's not a footer in the sense that this is a head. There's also a header that is an HTML element that like shows up on the page. Yeah, but those should go in the body. Cool. All right, let me see where I'm at. Talked about debugger a little bit. Won't be the last time we use it. We've talked about why I can't get access to the DOM from a script tag in the head. Yeah.
I think also this comment to put the script at the in the body so that when the slow formation HTML is first loading the script.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. If you want to wait to like start making that network request to get the JavaScript until all the HTML is loaded, yeah. And that can shorten the amount of time the page is like blank white when you're loading the page. Depends on how much HTML you have.
Is there any disadvantage putting the script at the bottom of the body?
Yeah, it sort of depends on what you want to do. I don't want to get into it too in depth right now, but the main gotcha that I want you to take away from this is depending on where you put your script, the HTML may or may not be loaded yet. All right. We've talked about how we can find DOM elements. I want to talk about how we can find DOM elements inside of an existing DOM element. And I want to talk about another method that you have for debugging. When I console log blobs, I get this lovely thing here that I can actually flip down and open up to see the UL and all of the children in it. This is kind of cool. It's like a scrap of the same stuff we've got in the elements panel right here in the console. But it's a little bit obscure that this thing is an object in the same sense that like document is an object. Document, I get this thing where I can flip down, oh no, it's pretty much the same. I do an object like this, like I've got the ability to flip it down and like look into the prototype. I don't have that ability with this UL, but it is actually an object. This is the document object model. And there's a way I can see more details about this object called console.dir. And this just changes the way it displays on the console. Here are all of the things about this node. Properties, here I've got a key of class name and a value of blobs, JS blobs. This is the class name of that UL. I've got a collection of children for this node. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. There are even methods on this UL that I can call inside of the prototype. A lot of them. I'm looking for a particular one. And it might be in the prototype of the prototype. Okay. Yeah. Don't worry about prototypes yet. I don't know what half of these are, just for the record. Don't feel like you have to know all of them. You really, really don't. Maybe it's the prototype of the prototype of the prototype. There it is. Where do we recognize these two from? Yeah,
The
Danielle.
methods that we can use on the document object.
Yeah, these are methods that we've previously called on the document object. We've done document dot query selector. Yeah, that's fine. LI and gotten back the first LI tag. It looks like we can also call document.querySelector on another DOM element. Sure enough, that's a defined function. We can pass in an LI string and get back the first LI in that element. That's the difference between querySelector on the document and querySelector on this blobs element. If there are other LIs in the document, if, for example, I've got like an OL with an LI there, that's the first LI in the overall document. That's the first one in blobs. This can be really handy if you want to query for a specific child. You don't have to go to blobs.children and then loop through these and try and figure out, all right, well, is this the one or is this the bomb? We can just make a query selector off of blobs and grab the one we want. If we want specifically the bomb one, add a class to that, blobs.querySelector. What should I pass in? Yeah. There you go. No looping required. Danielle, you look a little perturbed.
Can you go to the text?
Yeah.
I don't remember where you put wrong. Oh, you just did it. Got it.
Yeah. All right, one more thing, and then we'll do a quick break. I know it's warm in here, and it's the afternoon. Stay with me. Actually, let's take the break now. Screw it. Go. Hi, welcome back. I'm realizing I didn't actually say something officially that I should have said, which is that this console right here is kind of like IRB. I can run Java, the little bits of JavaScript here that aren't in my index.js, and they'll run immediately. I have the same access to the DOM and my variables that I would anywhere else, but after all of my JavaScript is run. It's a great way to test out stuff, and there's a website with something on it that I think could be better. I have the tools to go in and change it myself. Not the right one? Yeah, okay. Great. That's way better. You can do this to literally any website. I've not actually hacked MDN. I've hacked a local copy of their page. If I refresh the browser, it's back. We made a new request. We grabbed a new copy of that HTML from the server, but let me do it again if I want to. This website is under my power, just like this one that I actually wrote. I want to quickly go through updating, deleting, and reading. And then we'll do that activity that I keep talking about. All right. When I set this p tag, I set it using inner text. If I refresh this page and I go back and I use inner HTML, it does exactly the same thing. Why are there two ways of doing exactly the same thing in JavaScript? Are these actually identical? Raise your hand if you think you know. Yeah. One's affected by styling and the other is not. Interesting. Sort of true. Yeah. So what you're saying is, like, if I put a marquee tag around this piece of text, don't use the marquee tag, it's deprecated. Not great with rules. Yeah. Really? What do you think would happen if I used inner text? Hold on, Carla, what do you think will happen? All right, so like maybe we get an error or something like that. Yeah. What else could happen? Yeah.
It's actually show what query selector is the best one.
You're thinking the same thing. You're thinking we're actually going to get like a greater than marquee, other greater than query selector, all is the best. Drum roll, please. Number 2. Yeah. We get that actual text in the element. No error. I actually like inner text better, even though inner HTML can do something that inner text can't. Sometimes, if you're using some input that you got from your user, you don't want to allow anyone to put HTML into your page. HTML that could like have a credit card form on it that would allow people to steal money from your site's users. HTML injection is a whole other topic that I can't really cover right now, but there is a difference, an important one. And if you can, use inner text. That's my rule of thumb for now. Sound good?
Yes.
Beautiful. What if I want to get, wait, what? Did someone say they were confused? HTML injection? I'll send out an article. Yeah. It's fun. I love hacking. But if I wanted to get the inner text, the current inner text of this key tag, what could I do? I've set it. I've made an update to the DOM. How do I get the current inner text of this paragraph tag? Here. Just like that? So, yeah, there's my string. The same text that I set it. This is true even for elements that haven't been tampered with. Now the inner text is exactly what I got from MDN. Inner HTML, well, you tell me. Same, different. What do you think is going to happen if I run this piece? So we'll get like a wrapping p tag. Yeah. Please raise your hand. Who else has an idea? Of what might happen? Bobby. What's going to happen when I run this code right here? So you're thinking same exact thing as right here. Yeah. What about you?
It's going to give me id, href,
Is there you're seeing an href like right here?
yeah.
Yeah. Drum roll, please. Cool. So we've got the href. There's not actually the enclosing tag, even though this is inside of a p tag. It just gives you the inner HTML of the thing. But we have way more than we got with inner text. Inner text just gives me the text bits of it. Just the content, not the structure. Inner HTML gives me a string version of all of it, which is cool. All right. One more caveat. I'm going to slap a nice little input tag on the DOM here. Nope, that's not how you do that. No, no, not how we put text inside of an input tag. Help, what did I do wrong? It has. Oh, like an attribute here? Okay, all right, so let me. Ah! So desperate to just do it with my keyboard that no. All right, we're not going to do that. So like nothing inside of it at all. Yeah. This is what's called a self-closing tag. It's totally fine if you don't need children. Yay! Okay. Tiny little input, but like, cool. All right, let's do this. Document dot, all right, how are we gonna get this input back? There's a handy dandy way. Carla.
I don't know. I think like if you call it on the
Sure. How? Let me pull this down so we can actually see the thing. Here it is. I did not.
Could you call it on like
So with tag name, it's only get elements by.
well then let's do get. Go back one to
Sure.
get elements.
There's also the query selector stuff.
Yeah.
We want it. Yeah, query selector. A query selector is not a thing. This is a verb. Query, this selector. The selector is the thing that goes into this string. Selectors are really, really powerful. In CSS, they apply styles to specific bits of your DOM, of your HTML. If we wanted to do a selector for this, what would you put in? What's the easiest thing that we can write a selector for this on? Input, yeah. That'll work until we get more inputs on the page above it. Totally fine for right now. Here is our input of type text. We could also do some crazy other stuff. Ready? Oh yeah. Selectors are really, really powerful. If you want to select something by an attribute, the presence or absence of an attribute, you can put it in brackets in the string. This is the first element on the page with an attribute of type. And unfortunately, it's not what I wanted it to be. Why did I get back this? Raise your hand, please. You.
It's easy to header, so that's why even before we did HTML, we would get that first.
Yeah, I got a script tag here that was in my header. Why did this one come back? It is first, but what made this one come back and not like another script tag or like a title tag or a head or yeah, type. This script tag has a type. So does the input, so it's the first one that I get. Wah, wah, wah. What I really want is like an element that has a type with a value of text, maybe. You need the quotes, it's a little bit of a pain, but there's the input. Or, if I wanted to, the cool thing about selectors is you can just like, you can stack them up all day. Potato.salad. This will only match an element with an ID of potato and a class of salad, which is literally nothing on my document because it was the other way. It was a class of potato and an ID of salad. There we go. Or we could just do the first item with a class of potato, or just the first thing with the ID of salad. A lot of leeway in designing your own selectors. Go play. Have fun. One caveat. This is very different from this. In return value, definitely. This gives me the input I'm after. This one does not. But why? What is this selector looking for that it couldn't find? More narrowly speaking, what does a space mean in a selector? Joe, do you know?
Child.
Yeah. Yeah, it's looking for any item with the ID of salad that is anywhere inside of an element with the class of potato. Space means children or other descendants, grandchildren, ancestors too. If you want just the direct children, you do this, and then that's also nothing. Selectors are really, really powerful. You do not need to know everything about selectors. I would stick to classes and IDs mostly, but you can do literally anything with them. Okay.
Is there a high-level overview about what you can put in selector?
Yes. I would go straight here, but pretty much anything you can imagine is valid. Type, class, ID. Star gives you everything in the document, like literally every element. Attribute selectors are what I just talked about. Combinators like combine different elements together. Read this article, it's awesome. Also, if you ever want to do something with selectors, Googling how to do that with selectors will get you this. But you have to know that they're called selectors, so remember that. Okay, the point of all of this was to get back this input. The reason I'm getting this input is because I want to get the current text that is inside of this input. What will I get back from .inner text on this input? Good question. Wow, that's some good questions. Carla, what do you think? You think nothing. Why?
There is no text.
Interesting idea. Yeah, this is a self-closing tag. It's an input. There is nothing, no HTML, no text in between it. You, what do you think? You think also nothing. Anyone think we'll get the keyboard matched? Huh?
Sure, why not?
Yeah. Why do you think we'll get that guy? Just to be that guy. No, we need that guy. And the fact is, like, I have tried to get the value of an input like this many, many times, and you will too, but it will give you empty string. Yeah, no, you can't win them all. But it's worth defending that position. That is a logical thing for our brains. Look, inside of this input, we see some text. Inner text? No. Another question, how do we get that piece of data? Yeah, what do you think?
So what do you
Dot value. That would make so much sense. And it is. Yeah. There are some small miracles. It's not all bad. All right. Does anyone remember how to delete things? Yeah, what do you do? Dot remove. So you're saying that if I like call dot remove on this, not bad. What's this gonna do?
It
What do you think?
removes the first LI in the HTML file.
Just the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah, why?
Because query selector will only get you the first item inside.
Yeah, the return value of query selector li. I don't know why I'm using let here. Is just that first li. If I call dot remove on it, just that one goes away. What if I did query selector all li dot remove?
All of them will be
I think all of them will be gone. Who agrees with Carla? Who thinks something else? And what? And why? Rachel.
It's possible it'll just remove the first one.
Possible it'll still just remove the first one, to be mean. JavaScript is sometimes mean. Actually, the truth is weirder than either of those things. It's an error.
Oh, collection instead of.
Exactly. This is a collection of DOM nodes, and you can't actually remove them all at once. Yeah, you got to remove them all one by one with a loop. Or, here's a shortcut way, if you want it. Nope. What? Oh. There we go.
What's the difference?
Between this and
I mean, I see that you got rid of the all and selector, but literally a string came back.
yeah, I think that's this string maybe. Super weird. You're wondering what the difference between these two?
Besides the all.
Yeah. So let's break this down a little bit. This gives us back a node list. Cool thing about JavaScript, arrays are objects. Arrays are objects, functions are objects, objects are objects. Everything, no, actually no, sorry. In Ruby, everything is an object. JavaScript, not everything is an object. Strings are not objects. No. False, undefined, null are not objects.
Oh,
But-
so that's why it comes back as a string. That why?
Not quite. All right. So document.querySelectorAll UL is a let.
What collection?
Mm-hmm. It is a collection. It's a node list. It's also not object. It's a collection with only one thing in it, this UL. Yeah? I'm going to set the inner HTML of this UL variable to an empty string. What do you notice about the difference here and here? Rachel.
It has an inner HTML, property or method. It's nested inside.
It's a property, and yes, exactly. This object now has an inner HTML property whose value is this empty string that I tried to set right here, that I did set right here. I took this array-like thing and I gave it a new property. If I try and get it back, still that empty string. I've just assigned a property to an object and gotten it back. It doesn't even care that it's like an array-like thing. This is not itself part of the DOM. The item inside of it is, but it's not, unfortunately, magic. If I want to actually set the inner HTML of this UL, no matter what I do to this list, it won't do it. If I do it to the first item in the list, the actual DOM node that is like hooked up to the browser, that's when I get potato. Cool with this?
So what are you trying to do? Like, what's the teaching here? What's the take-home message?
Take-home message is, if you're going to mess with the inner HTML of something, make sure it's actually a DOM node. Because objects in JavaScript can have properties added to them that they didn't have before. If you try and add a property to an object that isn't a DOM node, it's not going to do the inner HTML that you wanted it to. Be careful with your return values. The node list containing one item, it's like an array of things. You can't do something to the list and have it affect the thing inside the list. No? Okay. Let's do an activity. I want you to get your feet wet with this as well, encounter some weird errors, get some weird bugs on your own. What I'd like to do is have people who were born in the winter over here. Spring, back corner. Summer, other back corner. Fall up here. Make some groups. And let's do this activity.